guys, what's up? This is Caleb. We're coming up to you with another video, and today we are at the Expo Square. We're gonna see Ken Scott, the voice that plays Raph. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, Turtles in the Hat Shell, Turtle Power. Woo! Hey, there he is. Yes, sir.
Oh, I got someone else here too. You're gonna be surprised.
Who?
You'll see. Come here.
We got Darius in the cut.
What's good, Cowboard fans?
Oh, thank you, sir.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. I think the second movie is based.
Yeah,
It's good.
bro, I think it's awesome. Hey. Got some cool stuff. Dang. That's so tight. Alright.
And so what happened was, I told my agents, whatever you get in there, because I want it. So they got me Leslie's lover. So that's like my favorite thing. Anyway, so that's like my favorite thing about the police academies. And another thing is that when you do an ensemble film, a lot of times there's a lot of conflict because, you know, there's egos, mixing, matching, and everything else. It's like, well, none on the police academy set either, and nerd set. Highly unusual to have such great experiences with so many different people in the films. So that was a great thing. So Fight Club, I happened to have a friend that said, hey, well, I went to the set of Fight Club, and I actually wasn't in it. I went to go visit, and so I was there talking with everybody. I guess they thought that I did some voice work for it too. And so I think maybe I got credited. There's so many things on IMDb that that never show anything that I've ever done. So, and I don't really know what's in there, but there's uncredited stuff, credited stuff, and stuff I've done that they don't even have. So basically, it was one of those things where I wasn't Fight Club. Actually, I beat up that Brad Pitt. I stomped on his head. I said, "Brad, take that, take that." So that's really the Fight Club thing.
From Bartlesville, right?
It's what?
He's from Bartlesville, right?
Oh, Breathitt's from here? Oh, I didn't know that. He's a nice guy, actually. He's a very nice guy.
We got a question right over here, and then we'll get to you, sir, okay? Yes, what was your question? Say again. What was the easiest scene?
For me, the easiest scene is in the first movie where I'm actually the fellow nunchucker that goes against Michelangelo. When Mikey goes, "Oh, a fellow chucker, eh?" And they do a nunchuck battle back and forth.
Sir.
I'm not actually Raphael at that moment because he's unconscious in a bathtub. I'm one of the foot soldiers. So that was super cool because I did not have to wear a 50-pound turtle costume. So it was easy for me to be a human.
That's awesome.
And all Brian did was talk, so every scene was easy.
And if you guys have seen Brian, you know he loves to talk, and he does it well.
A couple of cough drops, some tea and honey. It's his day. My day was oxygen tanks and
His
nosebleeds.
bathrobe.
I shower too. I shower.
The question is, how long did we stay in a Ninja Turtle costume? So we would start every day was 12 hours. We would start the first day, we'd spend 5 to 6 hours in one turtle suit and just sweating it up, and it gets heavier and heavier because it's like a sponge. So the more you sweat in it, it just becomes the density, it just gets heavier and heavier. Then we would break for lunch, take a shower, give them that wet turtle costume, which they would put into what was called the drying room. And it was basically just this plywood room they made with heaters pumping into it 24 hours a day. And we would get a second turtle suit that we would put on for the second half of the day. So it was 2 suits for 5 or 6 hours at a time each.
Wow.
Okay, so for Brian Tochi, so about Leonardo, how did you feel playing him? Playing his role?
How did I feel playing Leonardo?
Yes.
It was really great. You know, it's funny because in the first time, I was very fortunate because I did all 3 original movies. And so what's funny is that, getting back to what I said earlier, I go, what the hell's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? I have no idea. There's these turtles that get ooze, and basically they're saying, you know what? Think of it kind of as a surfer, kind of, you know, dude, surfer dude. And I thought, you know, I can do that. I grew up in Southern California. I still live in Southern California. Right. So I thought I can do that. And then basically, because they're kids or young, you know, the turtles are younger, just elevate your voice a little bit. And so this is how it used to be. Oh my gosh. So that sound familiar? Yeah. Well, this is it. So cowabunga, dude. So to answer your question, it was fun. It was really fun because I could relate to it. And that was kind of the through line of it.
Now, Ken, you told a story, a great story yesterday. I'd love you to share it again. It's how you came to be in the first movie from basically audition to being the man in the suit. Can you take us through that again? That's a great story.
Yeah, so I kind of my journey was different than most people. Again, we talked earlier about what's different in Hollywood now versus then, and the way I kind of went about getting my job. Ever since I was young and doing martial arts, I wanted to be an action hero in the movies. So I studied Arnold Schwarzenegger would have to do in a movie. I tried to learn. Well, as soon as I graduated college, I moved down to the beach in North Carolina where they built a movie studio. Dino De Laurentiis, who produced Firestarter. He produced the original Flash Gordon, well not the original, but Flash Gordon with Sam Jones. So Dino De Laurentiis, he also did Serpico with Al Pacino, I mean a bunch of great movies. Well, he came to North Carolina, he shot Firestarter with Drew Barrymore. And he loved being in North Carolina so much and it was so cheap to shoot there that he built an entire studio. So I used to drive down there during my summers in college to try to somehow break into the movie business. I don't really know what I was doing. But I kind of knew that somehow on the other side of the walls of that studio was my dream. So one day I dressed up like a pizza delivery guy and I drove up to the guard shack. You could do this before 9/11. And I said, hey, I got a delivery for production. And the security guard kind of looked at me. I got real nervous. He said, all right, just drive in through here, park in the back, they're all back there. I was like, oh my God, I got in. So I drove into the movie studio lot, I went and parked, I got out of my car, I covered up my pizza uniform, and all of a sudden they were shooting a movie on the lot with it was there was a car chase and a gunfight going on. I could not have walked in more perfect time for me. It was a movie starring Shadow Stevens, the old DJ. So, it was a terrible movie. So, but I'm sitting there, well, I eventually met the people that were charged of casting extras. They found out I was a martial artist. They said, hey, we've got this movie coming, and we need local martial arts guys that we gotta hire. They're gonna get beat up by the heroes. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. So they called me up one day, they said, come audition. The movie's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I didn't know what those were. I'd heard of it, but I didn't really know that much. And we need you to audition to be what's called a foot soldier. And if you get hired, you're gonna be considered a special abilities extra, and we're gonna pay you $75 a day. And I was like, that sounds awesome. So I went and auditioned. I auditioned against like 100 other karate guys, and I got chosen to be like one of the main foot soldiers. So all through this stuff going on, I started to work with the stunt guys that were going on. I was doing pretty good. I was really good at nunchucks, so I got the job being the fellow chucker. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So then they needed a foot soldier to do this scene with Donatello and fight with swords and insult each other back and forth. So they came to me because I was doing so good and they said, do you want to do this part? And I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds great. So all of a sudden I went from being a $75 a day extra to I got my Screen Actors Guild card, which is a huge step. So now I was making like $450 for that day back in 1989 or whatever it was. I was like, this is great. And then, early in the film, the guy who's the stunt double for Raphael, there's a scene he's doing in Central Park where he meets Casey Jones. And Casey Jones pulls out a cricket bat, and Raph goes, cricket? You gotta know what a crumpet is to understand cricket. And then Casey hits him with the bat, Raph sails through the air and falls into a trash can. When he does, they took that stunt guy for Raphael and they dropped him head first into the trash can to shoot the scene. And when they did, the helmet, the head that he was wearing, came down real hard and broke his nose. So from that minute, That guy could no longer wear the Raphael costume, and the movie producers freaked out. They didn't have anybody to be Raphael. And when you're in a movie, time is money. They had to replace that guy quickly. So they went to the stunt coordinator and they said, who can we get? We need a martial artist that could be a Ninja Turtle. And they came to me because I was the main foot guy, and they said, if you can fit in that Ninja Turtle suit, you're the new Raphael. So I went to the creature shop, and you know what? I didn't fit. I didn't fit in the suit because I was a little bit bigger than the guys from Hong Kong. But I didn't realize the producers were just as anxious to fill this role as I was. So they went in the back and they got parts from Donatello, parts from Leonardo, and they put me in this Frankenstein outfit of all the different turtle parts, and then they stuck a Raphael head on me, and they're like, you're the new Raphael. So for the next rest of that movie, I got to do all the action and fighting for Raphael. Then when the second movie rolled around, I got promoted to actor Raphael with a robotic head, and somebody else, the Ho Sung Pak, who's an amazing martial artist, he became the stunt double for Raph. So in 1 year, I went from extra foot soldier to featured foot soldier to stunt Raphael to actor Raphael. I did the whole gamut in a year.
That's just amazing. I mean, like, I can't think of a great story like that that just shows how quickly you just grew into that.
I mean, that's a storybook story.
Yes, it is.
It's
That's
really
a dream
amazing.
come true. And you
Dream
can read
come
it
true.
all in my book, Teenage Ninja to Mutant Turtle, which is available right over there on that, over there. Oh, by the way, and I'm not trying to sell you a book, I don't care, but I tell this to everybody. If you really like the Ninja Turtle movies, you will love this book. Go on Amazon, read the reviews, it's all 5-star reviews. On Amazon, it's only $10. I don't do it to make money. I did it because I wrote so the fans could enjoy it. If you're an e-reader, it's like $3.99, and the audio book comes out hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, if not in December. I just finished it. So if you're into the movies, it's a very enjoyable book about things that you've never heard about before that took to make the movies.
Well, no joke. I read the book and I loved it. But it's not only just, I mean, it's Ninja Turtle centric. It's about Ninja Turtles, but it's about this guy, this guy who just wants so badly to become a Ninja Turtle, and his dreams were fulfilled. I mean, you really, when you read it, you really get the sense of the heart of that person, and that's this guy. I mean, I loved the book personally.
Now,
Thank you, Brian.
you did the actual, that's a 10 spot. So you actually did the voice for the e-reading, is that correct? Or
Yes, I tell the stories myself.
Cool.
Because who doesn't want more of this?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Do we have any other questions? We got one right there. Sorry, we'll get to you in just a second.
I'd love to know the interplay of how 4 people work together to make a turtle. So Brian, you said you laid down tracks first. Are those then used in production, and then you do
He's last.
after? That's
Well,
what
no,
I mean. What-
I actually laid down the tracks first, and for the second and third.
So I'd love to know how that informs production, and I'd love to know more about you had the stunt head and then the actor head with the laser sensors, and then what is said on production that then informs you. So
This is a very good question about how do we coordinate. For those that don't know, there's 4 performers that play each turtle. There's an actor that wears a robotic head, and there's a puppeteer from the Jim Henson organization, at least in the first 2 movies, who controls that robotic head, who actually makes the turtle talk and look and blink and all that. So that's 2 people. Then there's a stunt and action turtle that does all the fighting, and then there's a 4th guy that does the voice. I'm hearing something new about you doing work pre-production work. What is that?
Basically, before the second and the third one, I laid down tracks for the Turtles. I don't know if they used that or what they did, but I laid down tracks because they had the script and everything else beforehand. I didn't do it on the first one, but the second and third one I did.
What would you be laying tracks down to? I mean, were they
It was-
thinking they were going to time it to your performance?
That's what I was thinking, and that's what I thought they did and used.
Well,
Yeah.
here's how it went on the first 2. I wasn't in the 3rd movie, and that's okay. Brian was in that movie, and he's one of the best things in it.
Oh
He
God!
is the best one in the third.
Oh, here.
And there's that 20 spot.
Okay, so here's the way it worked practically on set in the first 2 movies. In the first 2 movies, you have the actor turtle and you have the puppeteer. And they spend a couple of weeks working together before we start shooting in order to develop a harmonious singular character. The guy in the suit has to coordinate all the body movements, head movements, and emotional projection that goes along with whatever's being said in the face. So if we're arguing and Raph is like, you know, Leo, I don't want to do it anymore. If I'm just sitting here like this as the suit actor, and the face is like, you know, Leo, I'm giving it nothing, right? So I have to be in time, even with the words, you know, Leo. So we used to play charades and improv and all these really fun games wearing our turtle heads with the puppeteers. We were actually in this old elementary school in England in one of those gymnasiums that still have like the wooden clubs and the pommel horse. It felt like a turn of the century like boys' school. So, but we're in there, we're playing charades and doing improv and all this stuff to sort of develop this oneness, right? Well, each actor turtle has a set of headphones inside the suit and a microphone. Each puppeteer has a set of headphones and a microphone. So let's say that Brian was my puppeteer, which is a guy named David Greenaway. Brian would have headphones and a thing on. He's controlling my face, but I can hear everything he's saying, just like I'm an astronaut. So I can hear him saying the lines, but we can also talk. So in between scenes, he might be like, okay, Ken, so you're gonna get up and then turn to your right and say this to Mikey, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, then we'll do that. But so we can have a conversation while he's 20 feet away and we're just talking through that. Plus, he can hit a switch that opens what we call the open channel, where we could then hear all the other turtles talking to all the... So at one time, you would have 8 guys all talking on this thing and doing the lines and all that stuff so we could hear. So, as an actor, I'm in the suit, I've got a puppeteer that's 20 feet over there, he's actually saying the line, you know, Leo, I gotta do, but he's saying it with an English accent. That's actually what they're recording for the tracks to be then duplicated in ADR afterwards. Now, actors in the suit, for instance, Leif Tilden, who played Donatello, at the same time that his puppeteer was saying the lines and making the face move, Leif was also in the suit saying the lines so that he was in perfect time with the actor, with the puppeteer. And so we're all hearing, Leif is saying the line, the puppeteer is saying the line, everybody's saying the line and doing all this stuff. And that's why sometimes we'd be like, just turn it off. Because I could vaguely hear Leif through my suit, but I only wanted to hear like my puppeteer. So different guys did different things. You'd have the English guys doing the actual voices, and then those guys would dub them in at the end. We never used any pre-recorded tracks to time anything out or anything like that. So at least in the first 2, they may have in the third.
When you were actor Raph, was there mechanisms in the mask that would also move it? You said there were some laser sensors yesterday. What was that?
Yeah, basically what happens is in the actor head, there's 27 different electronic motors that control the lips, the cheeks, the eyes, the eyelids, everything to bring this amazing thing to life, right? And so what would happen is off camera, the puppeteer has this remote control that was incredible. Their right hand was doing 6 different things, and their left hand had a joystick with a switch for each finger, and it was doing 42 different things. And then the puppeteer was wearing a headset that, in addition to talking to us, had a laser that pointed to their lip, their chin, and their cheek, which corresponded to the lip, chin, and cheek on the turtle face. So that guy would be like, what's up, dude? How's it going? And through remote control that was in the backpack and a computer processor, that would be received, go up a cable up the back of the neck, and as an actor inside my suit, this is what it was like. And I'm hearing the guy in my head go, what's up, dude? That's what it was like. So they're controlling it, and we're all making one character. And then somebody like Brian comes in, who does amazing ADR work, watches the screen. I don't mean to pull, to say right, but he boop, boop, boop. Hey, what's up, dude? And then he times it to that. All gets kind of solidified.
What did you have to work with in the booth? Were you hearing the puppeteers in their British accent, or were you hearing your first take of your tracks?
The question was, what did I hear in the booth before, laying down the track? And basically, the first time, just laid it out the way that Leonardo would say the lines. So I didn't know, this is the first time I heard this kind of from here, because I thought they used the track in the head and suit. Because maybe they used it, my tracks, just to get the sense of how Leonardo's supposed to be or something.
And they may have done something.
Yeah, to give it to the puppeteers.
I can't remember Marty's last name, but I think he was the Leonardo puppeteer. And they may have been working with stuff that I was unaware of.
Okay, but so in the booth, this is what's interesting, is that you get to see the movie, right? But where the characters are speaking, there's nothing. And there's like these 4 beeps. It's beep, 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 and then the next beep, you don't hear the other beep, you start saying all the words that they would like to do. Sometimes, what was great about Ninja Turtles is that it was scripted, but also we could change it up because the lips weren't exact. So we can kind of alter different things and you can work with it, play with it. So basically, you hear in the cans, in your headset, the movie, and then it goes silent, and then all you hear is the beeps, and then that's when that supposed 5th beep goes on. That's when you start talking and doing your whole thing, and then they cut it, and then we go back to do it again, or not, and then they kind of place it in with the movie and see how it sounds, and if it works, then they move on.
You know, what's interesting is last week we were with Robbie Rist, who's the voice of Michelangelo, and Robbie and I were talking about this very process. And Robbie had never met anybody, he'd never met Michelin that he remembers, and he didn't know the puppeteers. And again, most of the puppeteers were from England, although not all of them. And Robbie was matching to somebody else's voice, and to this day, Robbie goes, I don't know who the hell that actor was, but he couldn't quite get the accent right. It was almost like he was from somewhere else. And he was trying to dub, he didn't realize it was the English puppeteer, and he was like, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was dubbing to Mac Wilson, who was Michelangelo and ultimately became the head puppeteer of Henson and all that. So yeah, interesting experience.
That's a really cool story. I mean, it just goes to show you that, you know, you may know what it takes to make a movie, but you just never fully know. Like you say, this is the first time you ever heard something like that. All these years later, that you're just now learning.
We have a saying that's good production work goes unnoticed. You know, if you see a movie and the sky is totally blue and it looks great and everything like that, you don't realize the 47 hours somebody spent in digital recreation and coloring to remove the birds and the smokestacks and all that stuff. It's just a scene to you, but good production work goes unnoticed.
You know, it's interesting too in hearing Ken, and you know, and the puppeteers, a lot of Englishmen and such, doing the characters like Donatello. Corey Feldman did 1 and 3. He didn't do the second one, I believe. And it was so interesting because I can imagine that the puppeteers were pretty similar in the sense that they had the action and the things, and they were the excitement and whatever. And Corey's kind of this laid-back kind of guy. He talked, you know, kind of like this. And so it's interesting. I will bet that it just added such an interesting color to have somebody like Corey as opposed to the puppeteer's voice. I bet there was a major contrast just because Corey is so kind of laid back.
Interesting. So we had 2 questions here. Let's try to get to them before our panel wraps up. Sir, you had a question?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to know if you guys, like, got to meet Jim Henson, and what was that like if you did? Did you get to work with him at all? I know he was just, you know, that was just a creature shot. But I don't know.
The question is, did we ever get to meet Jim Henson, and what was that experience like? Did you ever meet Jim Henson?
I didn't, no.
I met him very briefly, so this is not a long story, but for me, it's kind of, rather than a story of substance, it's really more of a story of my own passionate moment of fanboy. Jim Henson worked on the first movie because he passed away just a short time after the first movie came out. And then he was working sort of intimately with some of the original actor turtles. And again, I was a stunt turtle, so I wasn't really part of that circle at that point. And so the actor turtles spent some time working with him and loved him and had a great experience. But he showed up on the set in North Carolina when we were working, and one day on the soundstage, he was taking a tour of the whole movie, and he walked onto the soundstage that I was on, and one of my coworkers said, "Hey man, look, it's Jim Henson." And when I looked up, I had the same feeling in my heart and my body that I think some people get when they get a chance to meet the Ninja Turtles at a con. I was just like, oh my God, that's Kermit the Frog and all the things that I love from The Muppet Show and Sesame Street, like very influential in my life. The Muppet Show was a huge part of my life, not to mention Sesame Street. So when he walked in, I describe it in my book. I describe him as, he's 6'4" with this long black hair. He looked like a hippie genius emperor. That's how he comes off. And so I got to meet him, we said hello, he was very nice, and it was a very short interaction. But in that moment, I couldn't wait to run and get on the phone and call my brother and say, guess who I just met? So yeah, it was really cool, and he was a very gracious dude. So we were all sorry to see him go.
You're so lucky because I never get a chance, and I was such a huge fan like Ken. I went to lunch with his son, Brian, and he and Brian married Mia Sara. So we went with lunch. Mia Sara, the actress. Mia Sara, for those of you who don't know Mia Sara, did you ever see Ferris Bueller's Day Off? She played the female lead.
The cute girlfriend.
Yeah, the cute girlfriend in Ferris Bueller. Anyway, so Brian married Mia, so we went to lunch, and I was like a little kid because I was asking him all these things about his dad and how this came to be and how did he do this. It was like, it was an amazing thing.
And that's Brian Henson's favorite way to spend lunch.
Yeah, I know. I was like, it was like I was a fanboy, like, okay, so your dad, right?
We know the feelings.
Brian Henson was the second unit director. He was very intimately involved with the Ninja Turtle movies. Brian was Jim's son, and I think on the first movie, he was 28 years old at the time, and it was really a big opportunity for him to be the second unit director. Now he runs the entire Henson organization, directs movies at will, does whatever he wants. He's executive producer of a million things. But back then, he was a kid getting his start. So he's the one that shot that whole scene in the movie where the turtles are first babies coming out of the shell, and they're like, pizza, all that kind of stuff, all that flashback shot stuff. And what was so interesting was they chose to shoot that rather than on a big movie camera. They shot it with an 8mm home movie camera to give it home movie feel. That's why it's so fuzzy and out of focus and really dark and all that stuff. So he did some really creative stuff. But what a fun guy to hang out with at the time. So real quick, I ran into Brian Henson one other time, cut to 20 years after Ninja Turtles. I'm driving down Cole Avenue and Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood, and all of a sudden, I'm waiting at a traffic light, and all of a sudden, a car's coming the other way. It tries to make a turn, hits a taxi cab, and flips over right in front of me in the intersection. And everybody just keeps driving. I get out of my car, I run to the car, I'm going to see what it is. Another car stops and runs. We both kneel down at the same time. I look up and he goes, "Ken?" And it's Brian Henson. We both got out of our cars to try to help who was ever in the other car. And that was our one little moment.
I know you've had your hand up for a long time. Let's go ahead and do your question, and then we'll have to wrap up. So,
Hey, Ken Scott, I got a question for you. Okay, so in the second movie, what was your favorite scene you played as Raph?
what was your favorite scene you played in the second movie?
This is my favorite scene in the second movie. Then I'd like to know your favorite scene in the second movie too. My favorite scene in the second movie is the one where Raphael is tied up to the post in the junkyard. And the reason it's my favorite scene is because it saved my life. In that scene, and again, this is one of the stories in my book, Teenage Ninja the Mutant Turtle. In this scene, I'm tied to the thing, and my 3 turtle brothers are coming to save me. And as they come to save me, they get scooped up in a cargo net by the Shredder and all his evil henchmen and all this stuff. Well, when they went to shoot that movie, as the 3 guys go and then get stuck in the cargo net picks them up off the ground. What they didn't realize was overnight, that cargo net, the cable that hoisted it, was rubbing up against another cable all night. And when they got it all the way up, it snapped. And it dropped all those guys while we were shooting the film about 8-10 feet, whatever, down to the ground, just flat cold. So unfortunately, some other guys they got hurt that day, especially the guy that was doubling for Donatello. His foot was just shattered. So a lot of guys got hurt, which you hate to see. You never want to see anybody get hurt. But when you're close and your turtle brethren and all that stuff, you kind of, but I was like, damn, I'm glad I was tied to the post. So yeah, that was my favorite scene.
Brian,
Great scene.
Well, it's really funny. Everything about the second one was just so terrific because Corey wasn't in that one, and every time we would have to wait, because a lot of times we would go in individually and do the voices for the turtles, but also we would do them together to get that camaraderie and get that kind of sense and feel of eminent something. But all the time Corey was always late. So the second one, I think it was the second one, he didn't work, and so it was great because we were just we would come in and work and have a great old time. So that was the best thing, is all the time.
That's funny. Donatello's voice is distinctly different in the second movie.
Yeah.
Distinctly.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that kind of time.
Which is interesting because the actor who plays Donatello, Leif Tilden,
actually does have a voice where he talks like this. That's his real voice, you know?
Oh.
He was the voice of an M&M on one of the commercials because he has such a unique voice.
Oh my God.
And unfortunately, they replaced him with somebody who sounds just like him.
That's hilarious. Well, guys, I thank you for joining us on this panel this morning. You guys, if you have any more questions,
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, come visit us if you have any questions. Yeah, we'd love to
Thanks a lot.
talk to you. But thank you so much. Thank you.
You rule, Brian.
What's that?
You rule, brother.
Oh, you're kind. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you were in Revenge of the Nerds?
I don't remember, to be honest. I don't remember.
Hey, man, I love your mask, dude. Love it. Thanks for asking such a great question.
You're welcome, Ken Scott. Last night I drew you a picture.
Oh, yeah?
Here you go, man.
man. Oh, that's awesome, dude. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. They got
There's,
the Christmas
Ken
hats
Scott.
on. There's me as Raph. There's Donnie. There's like another Raph, Leo Mike. Oh, that's Christmas Raph.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Dude, that's super cool. Thanks a lot, man.
You're welcome, Ken
That's
Scott.
very cowabunga.
Totally tubular.
Tubular, dude.